They always asked why we did it differently. The truth is, we never knew another way. We didn't set out to win. We set out to see how far we could go. There was no map for where we wanted to go, so we drew our own, and we called it Malizia.
Going out of the comfort zone, trying something you're not sure you can really achieve, playing with this fear, pushing yourself, having a big goal in life. For me, I think coming from a small background, it's medium-sized small town, seeing this goal somewhere and trying to get there, I think this is really the deepest motivation of the kind of the life experience. I have a dream, I realize the dream, I go there, this is the coolest thing ever. Well, it took me like 10, 15 years to find the path to do it.
I grew up with my family on boats, so that was always like a passion, but I didn't know like this job existed, you know? I think for me it wasn't clear like, oh, you can be a team manager of a racing team. Who knew this was even an option to do that kind of job, you know?
It's a dream project to have been part of it. It's not like it was just an easy journey of the next thing coming and the next thing happening. It was everyone wanting it to happen, not quite believing it, seeing it as a bit of a dream. I think I connect almost every aspect of my life now to what we're trying to achieve and what we have been achieving with Team Malizia.
Team Malizia is an offshore racing team. At its heart, we have around that a big climate action program, kind of a 4 or 5 year cycle. And we have like some pinnacle races. The Vendée Globe is one of them, a solo, non-stop race around the world. And the other race is the ocean race. And that's this crewed race, also around the world, but stopping. So it takes a lot longer and you stop at different cities around the world.
Team Malizia was created in 2016, and then we campaigned 16 and 17 a GC32 catamaran, a flying foiling catamaran. And it was Pierre's idea to call the team Malizia. Malizia kind of symbolizes the founding myth of Monaco. And it also means pirate in some ways. It means cunning, smart, but malicious also. It fits a bit our mindset with Pierre. We don't necessarily want to do the things just following, but trying to do it a little bit different and with our own styles. We like it to have this little pirate spirit in our team. Let's not just follow a convention, let's just try to make it possible despite lack of resources, time or experience or whatever. We do it nevertheless. See how far we can get.
I met Boris in 2018 as an accident at a party, and Boris was like, I need someone who's organized, like maybe you can help me for a few weeks. And I had just quit being a lawyer and I'd been sailing actually for a year at that point. Yeah, it grew, and pretty quickly I was the team manager and we were sort of figuring out how to do things differently and how to run with a super small team, how to think outside the box, like what else could we bring to offshore racing, basically.
I remember quite clearly, it was 2019 and I was doing La Solitaire du Figaro with my own project. I was speaking to a journalist and he was like, I just got off an interview with a guy called Boris Herrmann, and he's looking for a co-skipper for the TJV. I think you guys would suit each other quite nicely. I didn't know who Boris was or what Malizia was, and so I quickly searched, I think it was on Facebook at the time, and found Team Malizia, and I found a video of Pierre, the other founder. He was backflipping off the boat at the start of the Route de Rome. It became quite a famous video, and then I was like, well, I mean, I really want to do IMOCA. I've got to try. I'm sure there's no way there's 100 more experienced people who Boris will want to sail with before me, but I'll send him a message and see what happens. First day I came to Lorient to meet the team and then went to meet Boris, and it was the same day that they announced they were doing the Greta Thunberg trip. He shook my hand and said hello, and then he said, we've just announced this, we're taking Greta Thunberg across the Atlantic, I've got to do a quick call. And I didn't see him for 2 days. I really joined the team the day that it really massive and everyone knew what it was. Fair wind.
Teen climate activist Greta Thunberg arrived in New York Harbor Wednesday, ending her 2-week trek across the Atlantic.
At the beginning, no one knew Boris. It's not that Boris was famous in 2018. I think at the beginning, like really early on, that was a big worry. Like, are we actually going to find the money to continue? We went to Monaco to tell them, okay, yeah, we're going to have to put the boat in the shed until the Vendée Globe because it's not possible. Like, we don't have enough money to run.
Many ups, many downs. I thought that was it for the project, you know. There was no potential signs of us having, you know, partners and sponsors.
Finding really, in a country that has never done a Vendée Globe, finding a sponsor that, you know, wants to, it is almost impossible, I would say. You know, then what's the Vendée Globe? You come to someone, they don't know what it is. The media has no clue. They wouldn't, you know, no one knows what happens if you do it. And it was just these ideas. If we did the first German participation, it should be a good story, you know. Why not sponsor it? Luckily, we got massive support to build a solid campaign, and the Vendée Globe 2020-21, we should not misunderstand. That race was a historical event that will never happen again. During COVID, the rest of the world is at home, not doing anything, no other sports happening. TV channels don't know what to broadcast, and then there's us out on the ocean. And this was just a magical event in the history of sport. This Vendée Globe 2021 was so outstanding that I think we're still surfing on that wave from that Vendée Globe. Coming back, I remember after 2 weeks with Holly, we said, okay, stop all interviews, stop all kind of meetings. It's now or never. If we want to do a campaign with a new boat, the ocean race and the Vendée, we are already late. We need to start today.
Doing the ocean race really was a lifetime goal for me, for sure. It's, you know, it's one of those things that first got me into the sport of offshore sailing. You know, to sail around the world is the ultimate challenge. When I first joined, we were a very small team, and I think 4 or 5 people, and now we're up at sort of 20 to 30 people on average.
When we did hiring, it was more of a case of it doesn't have to come from that fixed mold, you know, that only someone who's come from sailing comms can do sailing comms. Or we've tried to look like outside of the box, I would say, to see what other skills can complement that.
Et dès le premier jour, il y a Oli qui t'accueille et qui te fait sentir dans une safe place. Et tu vois, elle est capable de venir te voir de manière complètement honnête et de te dire, bon bah là, peut-être qu'il aurait fallu faire les choses différemment, mais c'est pas grave, on ose faire des choses et en parler de manière ouverte.
What's the secret ingredient? How do you build a team spirit?
I think we were quite a young team, lots of players in the team, lots of members in the team that really put passion.
Everybody pitches in with Malizia. Doesn't matter what their job is, they pitch in and they help out. Felix doing a kids event on stage and everybody's so dedicated about it that they just say, okay, well, this is not my job, I'm usually a tech person. Or
was mich immer ein bisschen stolz macht, waren wirklich auch die letzte Phase, als das Boot noch fertiggestellt wurde. Boris hatte ja damals einen festen Termin vorgegeben, wann der Launch sein sollte. Wir haben dann alle dran gearbeitet, also selbst wir vom Commercial-Team, um dieses Boot fertigzustellen. Wir haben zusammen zum Beispiel ein Fenster durften wir einsetzen. Da waren wir mega stolz drauf. Es machte so das Gefühl, dass wir alle unseren Beitrag dazu beigetragen haben, dieses Boot wirklich zu launchen.
We are professional, but I don't think anyone in our team is trying to come from 9 to 5 and just see it as a normal job.
people working here are through and through, not just here for the job, not to come in the morning and leave at night, but they really take it home and care. They really care.
Le respect qu'on a les uns envers les autres, je pense qu'on le retrouve partout. Cet esprit-là, tu le retrouves dans toutes les équipes. De l'extérieur, tout a l'air toujours facile. Ouais, on est l'équipe la plus soudée du monde et tout. Et tu vois certains échanges. Dans les équipes franco-françaises, c'est vrai que quand quelque chose va pas, ça ronchonne, ça râle. Chez Malizia, si quelqu'un fait ça, t'as toujours un anglo-saxon qui va être là. Mais non, mais qu'est-ce que tu racontes là?
It is a great adventure to discover the world with a young team where you really become a family over a time.
And maybe a dysfunctional family, but you become a bit like a family. I think that, you understand each other a lot. You have friendship outside of what is just work.
La force de Malizia, c'est le fait de bosser dans une équipe internationale, que les cultures soient différentes.
A bunch of friends, and I think we had an enjoyable mood together. We would do our joint catering with Thibaut and sit there and all these different places and situations, and sometimes with technical problems to solve, sometimes with people that were injured or ill or challenging, but we would always find solutions, and that gives a lot of confidence over the time.
We've always kept that little passion, that little hunger, not just expecting it to happen.
Sometimes I don't think there's more I could have done, especially at the height of things. For me, I wouldn't change anything. I've had the best time.
So I'm really, really proud of what we have achieved. Don't take it too serious when I say that, but I think commercially we're maybe one of the most successful campaigns.
We've realized that in Germany it's not so easy to get one huge partner to pay for everything and put all your eggs in one basket. And how many partners could we have? What makes sense? What's viable?
Kind of stability is really important to build other things like setting up a strong team. The last 4 years was a great adventure. The experience from my first Vendée Globe 2020-21 was Guillaume Verdier boat, which is a very efficient hull shape with very little drag, but it's very flat. So if you have a wave, you hit the wave and you feel it each wave. All the stuff in the boat that's not tied on flies forward, yourself included. So it's really can be really stressful. And that Vendée Globe had a lot of waves and wind in the Southern Ocean. And so I came back with the bias of that impression is of course not the average of the climatology in the Southern Ocean. It was a windy Vendée Globe for sure, so that influenced a lot this boat design, which is today I think the fastest boat for windy downwind conditions.
Quand on a mis à l'eau ce bateau-là, il y avait beaucoup de gens qui rigolaient quand même. Le concept, il est osé, cette réputation de bateau très lourd.
Ils sont arrivés avec ce bateau qui ne ressemblait absolument pas aux autres, qui était beaucoup plus grand, beaucoup plus haut sur l'eau.
People thought that he was prioritizing crew comfort, but actually it was to do with this having a certain look and feel of the boat in the way it went through the water. He had to have a bigger cabin, bigger roof height because of the stability of the boat.
The vision of Boris, I think, with this boat was very clear with what he wanted to actually achieve.
Die Designentwürfe durchgegangen sind, an die kann ich mich noch ganz gut erinnern. Alle Entwürfe hatten wir damals an die Wand gepackt. Jeder konnte seinen Beitrag dazu bringen. Die Bilder sahen alle total witzig aus. Sie sahen alle aus wie beim letzten Abendmahl, wie wir da am Tisch rumsaßen. Das war total schön. Und das war echt ein großes Gemeinschaftsgefühl.
But the initial design phase was a big sprint.
Le bateau doit partir faire la route du Rhum et le bateau est pas prêt quoi. Donc c'est vrai que je me souviens arriver chez Malizia et me dire waouh, ça va être dur. Qu'est-ce que je fais là? L'un des premiers moments durs, c'était 3 semaines après que je suis arrivé dans l'équipe. Ils font une nave technique et le hook de safran tribord s'arrache. 3 jours après, on est censé partir à Saint-Malo en octobre, donc il y a une dépression qui passe ce week-end-là. Et il fait 40 nœuds. Je me souviens de Stu et de Rebecca à l'époque qui m'avaient construit une tente pour que je puisse travailler sous la pluie. Et moi, ça fait que 1 mois que je suis dans l'équipe et je me dis mais si c'est ça le rythme tout le temps, mais je vais jamais tenir.
on arrive à Alicante, on se rend compte que les feuilles sont tout mâchées, qui peut avoir tendance à, tu vois, à plomber un peu l'ambiance dans l'équipe, donc tu peux être tenté de baisser les bras, tu vois.
Foils are like one of a kind. We do not have spares. They cost 800,000 euros. Like, it's 3 weeks before the start. Boris has already left. And we stood there in Alicante and I thought, like, yeah, the foils are broken. How do we start a 9-month race, around 6-month race around the world?
Enfin, ce mois et demi d'Alicante a été hyper intense. C'était assez spécial parce que ça durait 3-4 jours, les gens étaient rentrés dans leur famille. Nous, on était 6-7 bodybuilders à rester. Oli nous avait commandé des pizzas le 24 au midi. Et puis c'est là, au final, où on a créé notre groupe de strateux, entre guillemets. Et c'était aussi la première fois que toute l'équipe Malizia, commerciale et technique, se retrouvait. On se rencontrait vraiment parce que c'était une équipe très jeune, que ce soit techniquement ou moyenne d'âge. Il fallait que le groupe prenne et sur le papier, avec la job list, ça partait assez mal. On a vraiment créé un esprit Malizia à ce moment-là.
We managed to find a solution, like crazily, but we found a solution. And I remember, like, we put the foils in the boat. They fit amazingly. And then that night it was like, okay, everyone is out. It's like the party of the year. We should be able to celebrate the wins, even if it's not winning a race. Like, to me, this was already a huge win. We got to the start of the race.
Welcome to the grand departure of the 14th edition of the Ocean Race, live from Alicante, Spain. Everybody excited to get the racing underway. All of our teams now on the water.
You know, the start of the race, I was so nervous, and so, you know, we're about to set off around the world. We're racing against the best races in the world.
They've got to go through the start line, out through the leaving gate, and then they are off to the open part of the Mediterranean where some big breeze is waiting for them.
J'ai tendance à oublier un peu moi ce genre de trucs, tu vois, les moments durs, tu vois, je me rappelle un peu que des trucs qui vont bien, mais tu sais, c'était avant la leg du Sud, alors dans les mers du Sud, donc c'était un peu, tu vois, c'était un peu engagé, et je pense que Stu il était un peu stressé. Il y a Stu qui dit non, faut qu'on colle des padailles ici, ça m'a énervé, tu vois, parce que j'ai qu'une seule c'était d'aller me coucher. Là, il y a Ed qui dit bah on va t'aider, on va le faire avec toi, on s'est poncé les padailles, il y a Clément qui dit ok, moi je pense si, Antoine il prend un autre truc. Ça n'a pas du tout pris longtemps parce qu'il y avait en fait ce mouvement d'équipe. C'est la padaille patrouille, tu vois, c'est padaille patrol.
Winning this very long leg around the Southern Ocean, that was really the key moment of this campaign.
On a documenté les larmes de Boris, Will qui est couvert de carbone, qui n'arrive plus à marcher parce qu'il a passé des heures en haut du mât.
I had to bite it out with my teeth. No, there's big pieces of carbon sticking out.
Un moment de down en communication où les gens se sont mis à suivre Malizia en se disant comment ils vont faire. Et ensuite il y a cette grande remontada du bateau qui vole dans le Grand Sud. Si ça se passe pas bien, on le dit. Si ça se passe bien, on le dit. Vraiment ce côté authentique.
Showing that the boat was superior in these conditions. We could like overtake the others and we were almost feeling sorry for the others because we were like excited about the beauty of a boat that was for the first time flying downwind in rough conditions that has never been seen or been filmed before.
L'équipe qui s'entend hyper bien avec une ambiance de fou à bord, ils enregistrent des podcasts, t'as l'impression d'être avec eux dans le cockpit.
We could send to the land the drone footage of an IMOCA that flies through the Southern Ocean. No one had ever seen this before, that was possible. And the others nosedive all the time. So we could really overtake and win the leg. And that was a big breakthrough of this campaign and a kind of a little bit of sailing history.
C'était grandiose en tant qu'équipe de vivre ce truc-là. D'arriver un peu en outsider, d'avoir eu tous ces rebondissements.
Malizia, we make sure we already have the success before we get to the actual racing, so hard to explain. always taking pleasure even when it was hard, like right from day one, right to the end. And it didn't really stop when we got back on land. You know, we had this team who was really happy to see us, and that was really nice to see that, to see how excited everyone was to have us back each time.
Yeah, keep dropping.
It would be difficult to say goodbye to the boat. I'm already starting to miss her.
Yeah, it feels quite special and also surreal, you know. I really trust the team, and the reason also why I'm really happy to be in the shed with my own project. Malizia, the guys have so much experience, and the tech team is really special. So yeah, it's getting real.
It was a good journey together. Took many people along on the way. Many people have met on this deck, this boat. I'm pleased about that all.
If you were to start all over again, would you take the same path?
If I was to start over again, I would do a very similar path.
It's sort of the final goodbye now for Malizia 3, as under the Malizia colours. We have a new boat on the way, ready for the next 4 years of the campaign. Our real strong point going ahead is the fact that we have such a well-established team now. We're the most experienced. We've already built an IMOCA now. But while we're doing all this, we also need to keep our spirit. We need to keep, you know, the philosophy of the team and you know, keep our easygoingness.
So it shouldn't just be about launching a winning boat and that's all our energy goes into that. I think we also need to put energy and time into making sure we keep and create the same team spirit that Malizia stands for.
Yeah, the next boat is really a fresh sheet of paper, a different story, different people. Yeah, it's like a second marriage. It's got nothing to do with this one.
So the sky's the limit. What else can we do, you know?